Think about the last time a movie gave you a fictional world you actually fell in love with. The kind of universe that keeps you up at night, where you find yourself falling down a rabbit hole of fan theories, timelines, and maps, just trying to figure out how it all works. The best stories don't just give us cool backgrounds, they give us settings that feel alive because they are full of friction, secrets, and things that don't always make sense. They aren't afraid to let their worlds get messy, and they trust the audience to handle a story that doesn't wrap up in a neat little bow. But lately, big budget filmmaking has developed a massive fear of its own ideas. Writers will hand us the most insane, brilliant playground imaginable, and then immediately hold our hands so we don't accidentally trip on any heavy themes. They built a massive canvas, only to paint the simplest, most black and white picture right over the top of it. Everything gets flattened out to make sure nobody in the theater gets confused, and the potential of a great concept gets traded away for total comfort. And there is no bigger culprit of this than James Cameron's Avatar franchise. On paper, Pandora should be the most fascinating place in cinema history. It's a planet where your mind can literally plug into the ecosystem, where our ancestors' memories are saved on a biological hard drive, and where the environment itself can think. It's a goldmine for great science fiction, but 3 movies deep into this universe, especially after seeing how things played out in Fire and Ash, the illusion has completely worn off. James Cameron has built the most expensive, visually stunning sandbox on Earth, but he keeps playing with the exact same plastic toys. The franchise has become stuck in its own loop. We aren't exploring a dangerous, unpredictable alien ecosystem anymore. We are just staring at a flawless, overpolished digital postcard that refuses to take a single narrative risk. If you strip away all the crazy special effects and the massive marketing budget, Avatar is basically the ultimate high-concept Isekai. It uses the exact same storytelling engine that drives half of the fantasy anime out there right now. You take a main character who is completely broken, stuck, and beaten down by a grey miserable reality, and you drop them headfirst into a hyper-vibrant wonderland where the stakes actually matter. Watching Jake Sully go from being a paralyzed marine trapped in a corporate dying version of Earth to being a 10-foot tall super athletic alien body is pure wish fulfillment. It hits on a basic human level. When he first wakes up in that lab, tears the wires off and just sprints out into the dirt because he can finally use his legs again, you feel that freedom with him. On paper, the physical difference between a human and a Navi should blow your mind throughout the whole movie. They are massive compared to us. But when you actually watch it, the scale of these creatures completely flattens out, because the camera spends almost all its time deep in the jungle, and because every character on screen is the exact same giant. Your eyes adjust way too fast, without a regular human standing right next to them in normal scenes to remind how towering they actually are. It just goes right over your head. Your brain normalizes it. They stop looking like an evolutionary miracle from another planet and just start looking like tall, blue humans with perfect proportions. But the real letdown isn't just how they look, it's how they think. The hair braids or the cues let the Navi literally plug their brains into the planet, the animals, and the memories of the people who died before them. The connection should completely warp how society sees identity, religion, and everyday life. Human life is lonely, your thoughts and memories belong entirely to you, and you have to use clunky words to try and explain them to someone else. But on a planet where you can literally share your mind with a network, society should look completely bizarre to an outsider. Instead, the Navi think and act exactly like ordinary humans. Their clans are broken down into the most basic predictable movie tropes you can think of. You've got the wise, mysterious elders, the hot-headed young warriors, the protective parents, and the angsty teens trying to find their place. Their morals and their emotional outbursts look like just a standard Hollywood script. The movie serves up these massive sci-fi concepts that should make their culture feel incredibly strange, and then it immediately takes a step back to keep the audience comfortable. We are told they have this deep magical bond with nature, but they argue and gossip exactly like humans wearing alien face paint. The bodies are alien, but their minds are completely ordinary. The franchise changed what their characters look like, but it totally forgot to change how they think. The total lack of creative risk is exactly why the 3rd movie, Fire and Ash, feels like such a massive letdown, if you were hoping for the franchise to finally grow up. For years, anyone critiquing these movies was told the exact same thing. Just wait for the sequels. The world is going to open up. We were explicitly promised the Ash people, an aggressive, fiery tribe that was supposed to completely flip the script on the peaceful, perfect image of the Navi. It was the absolute perfect chance to bring some real grey areas into this world. We were supposed to get a cool anti-hero, a massive internal split between the tribes, or a clear sign that nature isn't just a loving mother, but something dangerous and destructive. Instead, the movie completely copped out. What should have been a cool, smart look at an ideological split and a darker side of the planet turned into the exact same predictable loop we've been watching since 2009. Once again, the screen is just filled with the same old automatic guns. Once again, human mercenaries are trading generic gunfire with bows and arrows. The movie desperately tries to make everything feel epic by throwing massive herds of new animals into the blender, sending them charging into battle to save the day at the last second. But visual scale doesn't mean anything if there's no emotional weight behind it. When a story uses the exact same trick 3 times in a row, your brain just tunes out. You can only watch a CGI animal stampede a military base so many times before it just becomes white noise. You don't care about who's winning or losing because there's absolutely no mystery to how it's going to end. To see why this feels so empty, just look at how the original Star Wars trilogy built up its tension. Imagine if, in every single movie, the Empire was just a minor hurdle that got cleared out in the last 20 minutes. Imagine if Luke Skywalker just upgraded his ship, gave a generic speech about the Rebel Alliance, and blew up a brand new Death Star at the end of A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi without ever failing, losing a hand, or facing any real psychological trauma along the way. The franchise would have been completely forgotten. There would be no iconic
I am your father
scene. We wouldn't have this legendary tragic villain in Darth Vader, wrestling with his own darkness. Luke would just win because the script says the good guys have to win before the credits roll. And that's the exact corner Avatar has painted itself into. It relies entirely on a super basic repetitive rule. Nature is good, humans are bad. And nature always wins. By refusing to give the human villains a real desperate reason to be there, like trying to get resources to save a genuinely dying tragic Earth, and by refusing to let the Na'vi have a real inner conflict, the world stays completely frozen. Think about how much better this whole thing would be if the planet's mind, Ava, wasn't this perfect loving goddess, but a creepy controlling hive mind that uses the Na'vi like mindless white blood cells to protect itself. What if the Ash people weren't just evil because they're mad, but were actually a smart tribe trying to cut their hair braids to break free from the planet's control and get their own free will back? The second you introduce a conflict where both sides actually have a point, a simple pretty movie instantly turns into a gripping sci-fi epic. It actually gives the audience something to think about. It creates real suspense because you don't know what's going to happen next. But Avatar doesn't want to ask hard questions. It uses Ava like a cheat code to solve every single problem before it can even breathe. And when a movie answers all its own questions immediately, the stakes disappear. Suspense doesn't come from how big the explosions are. It comes from not knowing how the story ends. And the 3 movies in, we all know exactly how the story ends. This total lack of grit and creative risk isn't just a problem with the script. It's baked right into the literal pixels on screen. There's a huge issue with visual fatigue in modern movies. And Avatar has basically become the perfect example of it. Think about the classic movies that actually stick with you, tiring someone like Tom Hardy or Leonardo DiCaprio. They completely lock down the screen. They bring this heavy and predictable raw human energy. You see the subtle facial tics, the sweat, the unpolished grit that makes the whole world feel real. You can get totally glued to the screen just watching them sit in a dark room and act, because their presence feels heavy and tangible. In Avatar, that magnetic acting vibe is completely swallowed up by a digital filter, because every single performance is pushed through layers of high-tech motion capture and wrapped in a flawless CGI skin. That real cinematic texture completely evaporates. Everything is way too clean. Every single muscle twitch is perfectly rendered. Every pore is mathematically correct. And every hair moves with perfect digital physics. It has this sterile, over-polished Unreal Engine look that lacks any real texture. The actors aren't commanding the frame, they're being puppeted by a computer, and your brain can subconsciously feel how weightless it all is. On top of that, the entire franchise is trapped in an exhausting, never-ending color grade. It's just so much blue. We are talking about hours upon hours across multiple 3-hour movies, of nothing but different shades of teal, azure, and cyan. Now, having a specific look isn't a crime, but when a movie is 3 hours long, and it's the third time you're doing it, it becomes a massive problem for your eyes. There is only so much blue a human eye can take before your brain completely tunes out the spectacle. The glowing plants stop being magical, the ocean stops being breathtaking, and even the new volcanic areas in fire and ash lose their edge, because everything is filtered through the exact same clean, saturated digital lens. Without real contrast, the beauty just becomes boring. It becomes the background noise. Look at how Lord of the Rings handles its world. Those movies love nature, but they understand that nature is messy, dangerous, and full of different looks. Peter Jackson gives you the cozy green warmth of the Shire, the blinding and brutal white of a mountain wizard, the pitch black, creepy shadows of Mines of Moria, and the jagged volcanic reds and greys of Mordor. Every single location has its own soul, its own color palette, and the real gritty texture. You can practically feel the cold stone and see the dirt under the fingernails. Pandora completely lacks that kind of geographic identity, because everything is rendered to be a pristine, glowing paradise. The world has no scars, it has no wounds. It desperately needs ugly places, collapsed ecosystems, or regions where nature completely failed. Beauty without any imperfections just starts to feel fake, and a fake world is never going to build a truly obsessed fanbase. And that's the most frustrating thing about analyzing the Avatar franchise. It's not that the movies are completely unwatchable, or that Pandora is a stupid idea. Honestly, it's the exact opposite. James Cameron came up with one of the coolest sci-fi setups in modern movie history. A living planet that acts like a biological internet, saves your ancestors' memories and lets you plug your mind right into the wildlife, is a brilliant foundation. Most sci-fi writers would kill for a concept that rich. The tragedy is that after 3 massive movies, nearly 20 years of waiting, and billions of dollars spent, we are standing at the very edge of the playground. We are just leaning against the fence, looking at how pretty the layout is, while the story completely refuses to step inside and explore it. James Cameron didn't build a bad world, he built a world that is totally drowning in wasted potential. Until these movies find the courage to ask hard questions, let the characters actually conflict with the planet, and inject some real unpolished grit into the flawless blue aesthetic, it's always going to feel empty. It's going to stay exactly what it is right now. A spectacular, record-breaking theme park that is fun to visit for 3 hours, but a world that nobody actually cares to talk about once they leave.